let me start with the word of prayer, and then we'll just jump into the report if that's okay with everybody. Gracious God, I do thank you for this time, and I thank you that we get to come together as colleagues working together. I thank you for Chris and her giving of her time, that we can continue to put our best foot forward. We ask you to not only bless this time, but each one of us in the ministries and the calls that we have. Amen. Okay. Chris is our expert extraordinaire from the Missouri River District. If I ever and still do have questions, I call Chris. I am aware you all are here because of Chris. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it over to her. We're really going to start from the beginning and work through it. But if you have specific questions as we go, mute and unmute yourself as you want. Ask the questions as we go, okay? That seem fair and reasonable to everybody? Pat, you text us, you type in your questions and we'll get it, all right? So, Chris, please.
All right. Well, thank you for having me today. I don't know if I'm the expert extraordinaire, but I'm going to do my best. And, you know, if you all ask a question that I don't know an answer, be assured that I will find it. I'm really good at digging out and fleshing out all those things, and I will find the answer and get back to you, you know, either phone call or email. So we have someone that's brand new that has never done Ezra report before, and so we're going to start at the very, very beginning. And so if it seems like I'm going over stuff that I already know, that please bear with us, because I'm as knee deep in Ezra as you all are. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Make sure I get the right screen. You all should have received, can you see this screen? It looks like an email. Okay. You all should have received an email from the conference. Actually would have come from stats, the stats team, the statistical team. It was just an overview telling you that the stats were open, and within there, it has your login information. So this is the website that you're going to go to in that email. If anyone didn't get that email, shoot a message in the chat, and I will make sure that it gets forwarded to you. But also in that chat, give me your email address, just so that I make sure I have it. So in that email, that is the website. When you go to that website, the first thing that you're going to see is a login. Did that change to the login screen? Okay. So the first thing that you're going to see is a login. Well, it's going to ask you for a username and a password. So we go back to that. Whoop. Did I close that? Hold on, I just got to get my email back up. So if we go back to that email, I'm so sorry, I lost it. My apologies, I lost my email, just say it. Are you seeing the email? No. Okay.
We see one that you sent us. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you do see that.
It's really polite.
It's not coming. It's not opening on my screen, so that's why I'm having trouble finding it.
It's what we're seeing, Chris's email that you sent us saying, "Hey, you guys got an email right before Christmas that you probably missed, but here's the info."
Okay, perfect. So within that email then, now are you seeing the statistical one?
Got it. Yep.
I'm going to stop share.
I just have the one from January 15th. You say before Christmas?
Yes, this email that I just pulled up there right now came from the conference. I forwarded it, but you should have also gotten it directly from the conference. So within that email, it tells you then how to find your username And there's a link there. It's actually a PDF file. And I'm going to put that in the chat. If I can find my chat. I will get it out there in the chat in a moment. So when you open that file, then you just search for your name. So like Scotts Bluff, you search for the name, and then right before that name, are you seeing that name?
Yes.
Okay. Right before that name, you'll see your number. So 831548 is Scotts Bluff's number. So you take that number and you go back to that Ezra login screen. You'll type in, you'll type in that number, 831548, and then you will type in that GP stats, GP 2020 stats is your password. After you type in the password, and I'm not going to enter it because Craig could have already done this, but once you type that in, then it's going to ask you to enter your information, basically your name, your email, your phone number, and then what you want your new password to be. It's asking you to reset the password. Okay. Once you're logged in, now I have more privileges in Ezra than you all do, but I'm going to just go ahead and pull up one of my churches. This happens to be Burchard, Nebraska. This is what you're going to see. You're going to see your name. You're going to see the different tables because there's table 1, 2, and 3. And then it's just going to start just like your reports do now. Okay, right down the line. So first information you're going to report is your professing membership. It's always going to start what it ended at last year. You can't change that number. Then you enter, like if you received members, you removed members, however they were moved is where you enter those numbers in that first section. And then line 4 will total it up. I can tell you that we AAs, the biggest thing that we look at is removed by charge conference action. So when you submitted your charge conference forms last fall, if you said you removed 3, and you enter 4 in this number, we're going to call you. We're going to call you and say, why are you entering 4? Because you didn't approve that at charge conference, because Book of Discipline, as you know better than I do, says that has to be approved. So that's the line that we're going to look at as AAs, what you removed. The rest of it, we look at your reports, but someone could have passed between October and December. So if it's reasonable to us, we don't question any other numbers there.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
I've got a question about line 2A.
Yes.
No, 2. I just lost it. Where's the corrections? But 2D, added by correction.
Yep.
And hopefully I'm the only one dealing with this, but is that where I put the members that were accidentally removed that I need to put back on the roll?
Yes,
So,
that's what I would do. Yes,
okay.
I would put them back there. And then it's probably going to it's going to flag it because I know your number's a little bit large.
Right.
And then it'll just ask you for a note, and you put in,
Okay.
why you're putting that back in, and away you go.
And then as a best practice, it'd probably be handy for me to keep an auxiliary piece of paper listing those names in case I get asked later who it was.
I would. Yeah,
Okay.
I would. Yeah, I would just, when I send you your final report, or you print your final report, and then just attach that to the report.
Yeah.
And then, and
I
then
always
you've always
keep
got it.
a file that's called notes to future stuff on these. And that way, when I wonder, like, what was I thinking last year? I can look in that file folder and I've got notes about what I was thinking.
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
You're way
Typically,
too
line
organized, Steph.
2B and line 3C added by correction or removed by correction. You're not going to use those very often, but Stephanie's is a special case. She had some numbers removed that shouldn't have been.
Yeah. What did
so-
you say? What did you say, Craig?
I said you're way too organized.
No. I'm afraid I'll be accused of not being organized.
There
So
you go.
this is utter paranoia speaking.
Yep. There you go. All right. So then the next section is you're just reporting your members' ethnicity. Line 5 should equal line 4. So if you have a total of 12 members, then you better have a total of 12 ethnicity reporting in line 5. Same way with line 6, you're reporting gender. Again, line 6 needs to match line 4. And those are the reporting on the breakouts of membership. The next section, you're looking at membership, your average worship attendance. Now, one of the questions that we've had in our district is, how do we report, come March, we went to all online and we've been all online, but maybe we met for a couple of weeks in August kind of thing. What I've been told directly from the conference is report your average worship attendance for the weeks, only the weeks that you met in-house. Then also, then the next line is worshiping online, report the average that worshiped online. I've had a lot of questions about how do we determine how many people are worshiping online. I know that that's hard. I know that that's very hard because some online services don't count those numbers.
Hey, Chris.
Fast judgment. If you've got all of a sudden 600 people that are worshiping online when you normally in-house maybe only had 200, it's reasonable that you could have a few more online, but probably not 600. So use your own subjective, determinations on that.
Chris, I have a question.
Yes.
Hey, is that line, is that a new feature or has that always been there?
The online worship is actually new. I'm going to say yes and no. I believe it was there last year, but we didn't use it because most churches weren't worshiping online last year. But so technically, yeah, it is new.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, I have a question about that. Over on the vital stats,
Yep.
As long as I'm not putting a 0 in for my in-person worship attendance, vital stats will calculate for me my average in-person worship, right?
It will calculate. If you leave it blank,
Yeah.
it will calculate it the average correctly. If you put a 0 in there, then it uses that number for weeks. So maybe you only met 12 weeks, but you're putting in 0, so it uses 52 to figure your average. Leave it blank in vital signs, and then it'll always calculate it for you.
It'll do my math for me. Awesome.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. The next lines, I'm going to say, let's see, we're going line 8A. All the way, the rest of the way down up to line 19. Wait a minute. Really, all the way on the rest of table 1, that's just reporting, how many baptisms you've had, confirmations, and then it goes into, United Methodist men and women, how many members you have there, and then after that, then it talks about mission engagement. And it just wants you to report, how many people do you have engaged in mission and ministry, and how many people are you serving through that? If it's a community ministry, you might only have 5 people participating, but you could be serving 500 people. depending on the size of your community. So that's pretty much the gist of table 1. Any questions on table 1? All right. We are going to move to table 2. Table 2 is your church assets and expenses. Line 24 is basically the value of any property that you own, buildings, land, vehicles, equipment, whatever you have, that's where you're going to report. A lot of churches, this stays consistent year after year after year. You can see this church actually went down a little bit because they felt like, things depreciate. I can tell you with this church, that's an estimated number. It's probably not a factual valuation number. Liquid assets, line 25. This is where you're going to report things like if you have an account with the Methodist Foundation. These are your assets. And this is where you want to report all of those assets, your checking account, your savings account, your investment accounts, anything there that will go in line 25. That can go up and down every year, depending on whether the church keeps their interest in the accounts. Maybe they take the interest out. Maybe they cashed in a CD or, an investment account, whatever. But we do watch, I can tell you, we watch that number when we verify your stats. We kind of compare it to your investments form that you sent in at Charge Conference. Some churches provide us at the end of the year, when they do their fund balance report, they'll actually give us their statement from the foundation. And so we look at those kind of things. If it's within a reasonable amount, we don't flag it, but you could get called on line 25. 26 is where your debt would be recorded. 26, 26B, 27. And then we go into the mission shares portion. You'll notice that the first few lines are what you were apportioned, the first 2. And then the next lines are what you were paid. Because these are dark orange, you cannot change those numbers. If you find a discrepancy, so if this church said, hey, wait a minute, I paid $800, not $660, call your AA right away, because what we need to do then, we have to contact Scott Brewer and or GCFA to figure out where that discrepancy happened. It's a treasury issue. We may or may not be able to solve it, as an AA, but you need to let your AA know right away. So all of those in orange are automatically filled from the foundation. Then there's a couple of other giving fields. If you gave to a United Methodist cause, maybe you gave to Pearl Pantry here in Omaha, you gave them just a donation, but you didn't send that through the conference, you just sent it to them directly. That's where you would report that, or maybe to the Big Garden, or I don't know any other off the top of my head. Then the next line is if your church gave to any other causes that are not United Methodist. Somebody have an example? I don't.
We have a local ministry that's they have a food pantry and the family services, Pottersville Ministries. But to me, that's
perfect. Great example. Great example. Yeah. So it's not a United Methodist charitable cause, but your church gave a donation. That's where you would report that.
Hey, Chris, can I ask a
Yes.
question? Up on 26B,
Yep.
there's a reference to PPP loans. And because it took so long for us to find out if it was a loan or a grant, we just booked that money as income in like an other category. And now we know that it is not a loan. Like retroactively, it's a grant. So I'm assuming I don't need to worry about that, because
they're actually, for grants, there's a line where we will report that, but it's on table 3.
Okay.
And The reason it's on table 3 is because we do not want these grants and loans to affect your mission shares because
Right.
they're not income for mission shares.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
super
But
helpful.
if
I
it
just
is-
saw
but
that
if
and
it
was
is
like
a-
panicking a bit. Okay.
Yeah, if it is a loan, you would report it into, that you have to pay back. It would be in 26B. That's my understanding. Yep. Okay, so then the next section after the charitable giving is the clergy and staff. So line 39 is where you're going to report pension. That's, if you look at your compensation worksheet, that is your CRSP and your CPP. I will tell you that in this section, AAs look very closely at your compensation worksheets. We know that there can be variances because some churches, at the end of the year, there's some of 2020's time that could carry over into 2021, depending on how their payroll periods are. But we do look at these lines and compare them to your comp sheet, and they need to match up fairly closely. So line 39 is your pension. Then line 40, line 40 is if your church has a health care plan, if they provide you with health care, this is where you would put the amount that the church pays for you. Because some churches will pay a percentage if they provide health care. Most churches, unless you're very large, don't provide health care. Line 41A is your senior pastor, not an associate, not a deacon. It's your senior pastor's base salary. Then in line 41B is your associate pastor's salary, base salary. And then 41C is your deacon's base salary. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because just because I know Stephanie has all 3 of those at her church. Okay. Then we go in, the next section is your housing benefits. And again, 41, they're broken out, 41A, 42B, and 42C. Lead pastor, associate pastor, deacon. If you don't have a parsonage, you're paid a housing allowance. That is where those amounts would go. Line 43, now here you take your pastor, your associate, and your deacon, all of their reimbursements that they've gotten for the year, and you just tell us one number. 44.1, this is where if your pastors, all 3 of them, get the health allowance stipend, 15,850 is what the number is now. You take that number, you add them all together, and you enter that amount in this field. We don't have any churches in our district, but there are some that I know have what they call other cash allowances. And if you did have that, that is where you would enter that number, 44.2. 44.3, if you gave your pastors a bonus, or you gave them, took a special offering, maybe you did an offering in October for Pastor Appreciation Month, you would report that in 44.3. And then this is.
Hey, Chris, this is Nick. Just a quick
Yep.
clarification
Yep.
on that bonuses, special offerings, etc.
Yep.
Would that, I assume like a love gift would fall under that umbrella?
Yes, if it was paid to you by the church, yes.
Okay, that's what I assume. Thank you.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you want to check when you get your W-2, that has to be included on your W-2 as well. And then line 45 is all your other church staff, any benefits. Deaconal ministers is different than a deacon, than an ordained deacon. Yeah, that's where you would report that in 45. 46 is any of your church program expenses. You know, maybe you spent some money for all of your new online, worship. That's where you would report that as your program expenses. And then your operating expenses are, your insurance, your utilities, anything, maintenance. If you have a parsonage, any maintenance that you did would also be in 47. Now, if it was a large major purchase or large major repair, say on your parsonage, or a mortgage, interest, anything like that, then that would go in 48. Or I said that wrong. I do apologize. Interest and loans and mortgages go in 48. The other stuff that I said, like major purchases, parsonage maintenance, not maintenance, major maintenance. Like if you cited it and you spent $10,000 citing it, then that goes in 49. Line 50 will calculate automatically. It does only do that a couple of times a day. So if you finish it 4 o'clock in the afternoon, come back in the next morning and check it, and this line 50 should be correct.
Hey, Chris, let me check really quick because I know Connie wasn't 49 the number that you were working on. Does this answer your question, Connie?
Sort of. The church I know purchased a sign for out front, and it was spendy. It was like about 20 grand. They had a capital campaign to raise money for that. So I don't know if it fits in there. 49.
I would put it there in 49 because to me that's above and beyond a normal operating expense, which is what you would normally put in 47. I would report it in line 49. It's gonna probably flag it because you probably didn't have much at all reported in that line the previous year. And then all you have to do is put in the note of what it was for. I'm not sure what, you're in with Craig, or no, I'm not sure what district you're in, Connie, but your AA could call you and ask you about it, but I would put it in 49.
Yeah, last year there was 10,335, which I, have no idea where that number came from. And then I also know that they, did some deck work on the parsonage, etc. So I'm not quite sure where we.
I would look at how much that parsonage, how much that was. If the parsonage, I always have to go back and look again. Yeah, if the parsonage, if that expense was, I'm going to say less than a couple thousand, I would probably report it in 47 as a normal maintenance operating expense kind of thing. If it was if it was more than that, if you felt like it's more like a major purchase or a major expense, then I would do 49.
Okay, so anything above 2,000, because I want to say don't quote me, because like I said, I just took over the end of November, and I want to say that was 6,000 for the parsonage deck and other things, but
I'm gonna throw this out there and ask our pastors. What dollar amount or what amount would you consider a major expense?
Okay.
And I know that could be different. So go ahead and any pastors, go ahead and chime in, please, if you have a thought.
Well, this is Nick, and again, I think it would be highly subjective. For example, I'm serving a church that is very small, so an expenditure of $5,000 or $6,000 could be pretty significant. Although another church I'm serving is bigger, and that might fall under 10K. So I mean, my initial thought when I hear major expense is I think of, you gotta use that 10K as an amount. Again, that's all subjective and maybe based on previous experience. But I think part of it too is, I mean, if with the note, so if you're replacing a furnace, air conditioner, siding, deck, I mean, those things, even just hearing it gives people hives as a major expense. If you're, repainting a house instead of reciting it, the dollar amounts might be similar, but it doesn't feel like a major expense. So it is really highly subjective I think based on your budget and your context, but 10K is sometimes a number that I use to differentiate major expense from another.
I think knowing that you told us they did a capital campaign also talks about, for the context, certainly it was a major thing. And this is why I keep the file folder so that whoever follows me is like, oh, that's what she was thinking. And I'm okay with them judging me. At least they know, where the number came from.
Right.
Yeah, I think what makes it for me is the description. If it's something that goes to major, like improvements or new equipment or something new, like we just spent 25,000 on video equipment. I mean, to me, that's major.
Yep.
We also spent 15,000 getting our elevator working. So
Yep.
to me, the elevator is already there. To me, that's maintenance, where the video equipment was new equipment. So
Yep. Well, and actually, even in the description of 49, it even says audio visual equipment. So they consider that a major purchase as well. So yeah, great. Yeah. I agree with that, yeah, you have to look at each church and, like Nick said, it's subjective, but yet, like Craig said, look at what the purchase is itself. So maybe that's something, Connie, you can talk to your pastor or even the treasurer, and ask their opinion.
I am the treasurer. I just took over the end of November. So
yeah,
that's where my struggle is.
Has your pastor been around a while or?
No.
Okay. What church are you in, Connie?
The Shadron United Methodist. He's been there since July.
Okay. I would kind of what Craig said, look at what the purchase was, look at what what was actually done, and then make your determination whether that expense was an improvement or was it new, and based upon the dollar amount. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, the sign was new, so that definitely goes in 49.
Yep.
So, okay.
A couple of years ago, we put a deck on the back of the parsonage. Matt will be glad to hear that, so you don't fall down the steps anymore. But to me, that was a new addition. And then we've recently replaced the hot water heater and water softener, and to me, that's more maintenance. So.
Any other questions on table 2? All right, we are going to move on then to table 3. Okay, so table 3 is where we're going to start reporting our income. Your first line is 51. Most churches can determine, about how many giving units they have. Giving units could be a family, it could be individuals. I see Stephanie shaking her head no. And you know what? If it's 0, if you report 0, then you report 0. If you truly don't know, I mean, if folks are giving you checks or automatic deposits, you could count those numbers. But even sometimes that can be, difficult as well. But you make a church that has a pledge drive, they could easily use those numbers. Any other thoughts on that? The number of giving units? Okay. Line 52A is pretty self-explanatory. If you had a pledge drive, that's the amount that you're going to report that you received through that through those annual pledges, versus if you don't have a pledge drive, then you would report it in 52B. As you can see, this church, they don't do yearly pledges. They just, what they give, they give. But they know who those givers are, versus 52C is your unidentified givers. You don't know who they are. Somebody threw $50 in the plate. You don't know where it came from. 52D is where you're going to report any, if you have, say, an account with the foundation and you choose to leave the principal in the account, but every year you take the interest and you use that interest for operating expenses, then you report that in 52D.
So Chris, this is Nick.
Yep.
If we simply earned the interest but did nothing with it, just let it roll over into the account, do we still identify it here, or it's only if we
Nope.
pull that interest out?
You don't put it, you don't enter the interest here. You leave that in line 25. Line 25 reports your assets, because if it's still in the account, you didn't take it out and use it, it's still just an asset.
Great, thank you.
Yep. I'm just making sure that I got all that. If you decided to cash in a CD, and I'm going to say that CD was $10,000, but you only used $5,000 for operating budget, you only report the $5,000 in this line. Don't report the whole $10,000, otherwise you're going to be tagged mission shares on the whole $10,000 when you didn't use that. It's only the amount that you put out for your operating income that goes in that your annual budget or spending plan. 52E is if you had any sale of church-owned property like furniture, vehicles, anything like that, you would report that there. So you had income from the sale. You report that in 52E. 52F, if you rented your building, I don't know, the Boy Scouts rent your building for $100 a month. Well, then you have to report that $1,200 in this line, in that line there. Or if somebody gave you some money because they had a wedding, maybe you charge for weddings, that's where you would report that in 52F.
Also,
Yep.
Chris, I think when you have these communities that are yoking together and you've got
Yep.
one pastor serving 3 churches, you might have a parsonage available to rent, and that would probably go there as well.
Let me make sure. Yes, I do believe that is correct now that I'm thinking about that. Yeah, and rentals. Yep. That is correct. Yep. And then 52G is for special fundraisers. Maybe you have a pancake feed. Maybe you have, I don't know, a carnival, a summer carnival, anything that you have that you're just doing as a fundraiser. We have a church that does gift baskets, and then they, people can, bid on the gift basket. It's a fundraiser. That goes in 52G. And then 52T will total automatically, so you can just double check yourself. I'll tell you, the thing probably that we look at is just how much you had last year versus how much you had this year. The interest and dividends, we can get a little bit of as AAs, we look at what your line 25 was last year. And if you reported anything in line 52D, did you sell something? Is it just interest? We just kind of look at those things. So we do look at 52D. As long as there's nothing really out of the ordinary. We pretty much trust what the churches are reporting, that they're reporting accurately, because most churches, this is the section, this 52 section, that's where your mission shares are calculated from. So if you report it in these 52s, that's what your mission shares will be calculated from. 53, those lines, this is where you're going to report capital campaigns in A, memorials, endowments in B, sources of okay, so if you have funds, now remember in these line 53s, this is not, yeah, you didn't report it up in 52. It's money that you have that you didn't necessarily use for your spending or your budget, but it's money that you have. So like a memorial account or a capital campaign account, you're going to eventually use that and it'll eventually go up in lines 52 somewhere. But for right now, it's not.
Looks like memorials on
53.
53B.
Pardon me?
Looks like memorials on 53B.
Yeah, 53B. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. 53C is other projects, including sales of buildings. 53D. 53D should match. Remember back here on table 2, we had these lines, all these special Sundays and amounts given to UM causes, non-UM causes. 53 this line here should, the total of that should total up to all of those things on 52 on table 2. We AAs, we look at that. If it's within a few dollars, we're okay with it. We don't question, we don't question it. But if this number adds up to, 2,000, but your numbers on table 2 only added up to 500, then we're going to question where that extra came from.
Okay, so say that again.
53D is amount received for special Sundays, general advances, anything you gave to UM causes or non-UM causes, and you reported those on table 2. So the total of all of those should come very close to what you report in 53D.
Okay, so table 2, that should equal what number then?
53D.
But 53D equals
I'm going
what?
to give you the line numbers. Give me just a second.
Okay.
In table 2, lines 30 through 38 should come very close to what you report in 53D.
Okay. Okay. And then, so I have another question.
Yep.
And I know Tunde called you, we called you on, I can't remember, Monday or Tuesday maybe. So we have this income, which is like interest or whatever, from a couple of, at the foundation, large amount of monies, and we get the interest. And so we don't use those for our general operating thing. So we put those in 53C is the way we understood you on Monday or Tuesday.
What do you use those funds for?
Right. The greatest need is what they're tabbed for. And so right now, like this last year, we really didn't use them. So, and I
Okay.
think what Tunde wants to use those for is a sound system, you know, coming up in 2021.
Okay, let me think this through. Because you're using the funds. Now, who told you to put it in 53C?
Well, I thought it was you. Did we, Tunde, talk to you on
Uh-uh. Might have
earlier
been.
this week?
It's probably your AA, which would probably, is that Christy?
Oh, yep, Christy and Chris. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, if she told you 53C, then I'm going to say that's correct, because if you didn't use the funds, if they're still sitting in your account, then, you know, whether it's your savings account, your checking account, you got the interest from the foundation. You took it out of the foundation, but you haven't used it for anything. It's just still sitting in there. It's reported in line 25 because it's still an asset that you own because it's in your savings or checking account. But
right,
then
the
you didn't use
principal
it.
one.
So yes, then you would yes, 53C. Yep.
Okay,
I would agree with what she said. Absolutely.
all right.
Yeah. Now, next year, if you decide to use that, then let's say you use it for operating, you know, if you put that audio visual in your budget, now it becomes part of that audio visual becomes part of budget, not special. So then you would report it up in lines 52.
Well, I think we're, you know, that's just going to be like a, you know, don't quote me because I'm pretty new to this game, but I think it's
we'll
gonna
probably
be
have to
like,
look at that again next year. You know, where, you know, how it was done, and we'll answer that next year. But it just kind of depends on whether you put that in your budget or if it's just a special or, you know,
well,
above and
it'll
beyond.
be a special thing. It's not gonna
Yeah.
really be in the budget. So,
So then line 53T, that's automatically, I believe that, yeah, that's automatically calculated from all of the lines, 53A through D. Okay, and then we go into income from connectional or other external sources. You know, I don't even know what 54A is. I've never seen it used before. Does anybody have any thoughts on 54A, equitable compensation funds received by past church or pastor?
That might be for missional churches that are supported by the conference, I suppose.
Possibly, yeah. I've never seen it used, so I honestly can't answer that one. Okay, line 54B. Now that one I can tell you that we have a church here in our district that received a grant from the conference to help pay for the pastor's salary. And we report that in line 54B. It's not income, but we report that in 54B because it was a grant. Okay, line 54C. Did anyone receive the $300 grant from the Methodist Foundation, the COVID grant? Awesome. You are going to report that in line 54C. Some churches also received what we call a Healthy Congregations grant. That is also reported in 54C. So if you got both, you just add them together and report them there. I will tell you that the Nebraska AAs, thanks to Matt, they all have a list of the churches who did receive the foundations. Well, actually, even Healthy Congregations. We know all the churches. So if you leave that blank, we're going to call you. Say, hey, what'd you do with that $300? So 54, yep.
So, and I'd have to look for sure. I don't remember. I think that was both in December that we received yeah, I know it is. I'm pretty sure it was in December. We received 2 different grants. One was a CRF grant, and that was for COVID related cleaning stuff, and we spent that money, because we had to by the end of December. And then we received another grant for 2,000. We haven't, and that's for the Sunday school. And we haven't spent any of that money yet. So where does that go?
54C, because you've received it.
Yeah. And what about if we spent some of that?
It's not income, it's a grant. So you only report that in 54C.
Okay. And we don't have to report what we spent for it anywhere.
Okay. The only thing I'm going to ask you, because I don't see you on I just looked, Shadron received the $300. So you're going to report that in 54C. Now
When did we get that? Must have been before my time.
Matt, when were those issued?
Yeah, it was before your time, Connie, but you got it was early fall, maybe, so.
Okay.
Now, I don't have you on my list of churches that received a COVID response grant. Most of those were around $500. So I don't know where that 2,000 came from. So I'm not sure.
That's foundation. That's a foundation grant, isn't it, Connie? That's that's ministry grant
Well,
money.
there was one that it was, our secretary called it a CRF grant, and that one was for 1,500. And then we received one that was UME. I could go grab my folder.
Yeah, I would just find out where they're from, but most grants, I can tell you, will be reported in these 54 lines. And from what I'm hearing, I am going to guess it will be 54C without knowing exactly what they are. I'm guessing it will be 54C. A grant is where you will report that. Now, if it's a PPP loan, obviously or a PPP grant, that's actually 54D.
Right.
If it was a PPP or other COVID related loan, and loans, some of those are not paid back. So, or I think most of them are not paid back. So don't confuse that with a grant. It's still considered a loan.
Okay. Okay. So we got the PPP one. We'll just have to figure out, I guess, where the CRF and the UME one goes.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, just if it's a true grant, then it'll go in 54C. That I can tell you, but without knowing the details, I just want to put that out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Then 54T, of course, is automatically calculated from all the 54 lines. And then 55 is your total church income. Please know, because a lot of churches get confused on this, 55 is not where mission shares are calculated. Some churches think, oh, I'm going to get dinged big because that number went up this year. It's not. It's the line 52 is your actual income that your mission shares are calculated from.
That's line 52, you say?
There's 52T, that's the total.
Oh.
That's your total income for annual budget and spending plan. Okay, any questions on table 3?
I just have a quick question. I just want to make absolutely sure on something.
Yep.
So we received one of the grants from the foundation, and so we'll
Yep.
report that on line 54C.
Yep.
So that is not reported then up on line on like 52 then?
No.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Because it's a grant. It's not considered income per se. I mean, I know that it's money and it's income, but it's, yeah, for these purposes, it's not.
Right.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
So I have a question, Chris.
Yep.
So what about memorial funds, and does that affect your bottom line and your mission shares figure for a couple years down the road? Like if somebody gives a major gift for like our audio video technology stuff, that was largely memorial funds that paid for that. And without those funds, we wouldn't have been able to do that. Is that considered part of your operating expenses, or?
Probably not, because if audio visual wasn't ever in your budget, it's something above and beyond. It's almost like a special. You know, a memorial is like a special gift. So it's really not operating spending plan. So you wouldn't report that in 52. Now, I'll give you an example. We have some churches that they were left property, and they took the property and they sold it, and then they took the funds, the proceeds, and they bought CDs, and they bought like 5 CDs in equal amounts. And over time, they have cashed those CDs because they needed it for their church to survive. So each year they report in line 25 how much assets they have. And then if they cash in a CD, the amount that they use for their operating, then that gets reported up in the 52 lines. Specifically 52, could be D or E, depending on what it was. But no, I don't think, if it's, as far as the way I understand it, if it's, you know, for something special that's above and beyond the operating income, gift given specifically for that, then I don't believe you report that as income.
Thank you.
Yep.
So once you get done with this table, Chris, we go to the bottom, we click save.
Yep, you're going to save each table as you do it. You click save, and then now I don't know what your screen looks like. Is when you guys sign in, is there something that says submit? Like I have a submit up here. Do you all have that where you just submit your church stats?
If my memory serves correct, once I saved each of the tables, it pulled up a message that says, okay, if you're good with all these numbers, hit submit. You can't change anything and you're good to go.
Yep.
That's
absolutely.
how I remember it.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know what the church, what they see. Mine, like if Burchard here, if they're already submitted, but if they forgot to submit, then I actually go out here and it'll pull up a list of all my churches that haven't submitted yet. I can select the one I want, and then I can submit it for them. But I know your screens look different.
Right.
So yeah, once you're all done and you've got all your numbers entered and you know you're done, you're ready to give it to your AA, then you submit your stats. Then what happens is we AAs, we get a report. We can run a report that says, okay, these are the churches that have submitted. And then I start my verification process, and I go through, I go line by line and I compare what I have, to other reports that you've submitted during the year. And then when I'm done, what happens is I have this extra button, it's called verified. And I click that. I can put in notes, like if I have to call you, I can add all kinds of notes, and you will see those. hopefully your AA will send you a report when you're all done. And you'll know what she's done or what she's changed in any of your stats at any time. I never change anything unless I call somebody first. That's just the way I am, but that's kind of the whole process. And then once I verify it, then it goes to Scott Brewer and GCFA, and then they do their thing after that. So that's kind of, I guess we went almost line by line here. So any other questions on any of the tables? And Connie,
No.
don't be afraid to call your AA
Right.
if you have any questions along the way, or you can call me. It's okay too. I mean, I might.
What's your number?
It's 402-934-5441.
Okay. Yeah, it was Christy. I know that we talked to then earlier this
and
week.
that's who you will normally talk to. You'll want to give her a call, but if she's not available, you can give me a call. I'm not going to not answer the phone because I know it's you.
Well, I know too.
I am just going to ask. I don't see anything, but Pat, did you have any questions at all? I didn't see anything in the chat, but I just wanted to ask.
Pat's
Okay, I
sleeping.
don't see her typing anything, so I'm going to guess that no questions. Oh, but Pastor Michael. Okay. I don't, outside of my district, and other than, I know Nick Baker, I know Pastor Craig, I don't know churches and pastors connections. So.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for giving us your time. I've been texting several, and my observation, each person I've texted was, it would have been nice to have this back when I had to fill it out. So have somebody walk through it. So thank you, Chris. This way
You are so
we
welcome.
got it
well,
done.
now you have it recorded, so.
Exactly. We can pull that up and share that. One more quick thing before I let you all go is to let you know the February person, date, and time has been set on February 25th at noon. That's the third Thursday at noon, our normal time. We're going to have an attorney. His name is Andrew Loudon, and he does presentations on legacy giving and estate planning. So he is going to be our presenter February 25th at noon. So
Central time or Mountain
Central
time?
Thank you, Connie. Central time. I have to work better at that. Thank you. But yes, that will be Central time. Let everybody know. I know we've had several who have asked about this as well. So just going to put that out there as well. But again, my thanks to Chris for giving us her time. And if there are no other questions, I hope you all have a blessed day and have a great weekend. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you all.